Hi, thank you for being here. So what I'm going to share is just working really well for a lot of my clients, and I'll tell you some specifics around that. I think some people are going to love this or hate this, which is like super interesting because it's one of those things where it's like, for some people, it's like super good news, and for some people, it's super bad news. But either way, it's like a neutral thing. It's just that the online space always changes. Hey, Taylor. Oh, thank you for being here, my love. Hey, Lisa. So it's just that the online space changes. And when you can bring neutrality to that, I feel like I'm on a kick today of talking about that. Well, frankly, I'm always on a kick of talking about neutrality, but I was talking about it on Happy Thoughts earlier today too. But if you can bring neutrality to that, then this doesn't have to be a good thing and it doesn't have to be a really bad thing, right? It's just a thing that's working right now. And so try to approach what I'm about to say with that mentality. Again, some of you are going to be more naturally inclined to like it. Some of you are going to be more naturally inclined to be like, oh, that fucking sucks. But it's really neither. It's just a change in the online space after being in it for 4 years. Like, it's just the pendulum swings all the time. And this is just part of that. So I feel like I got 3 minutes in without telling you what the actual thing is, which is like a new record for me because normally I'm always like, hi, welcome to my live training. Here's exactly what I was going to tell you. So congratulations to me on making it for 3 minutes because usually I can't keep my mouth shut. Hey, Lisa Marie. Julia says she loves the new podcast, Coachy. Oh, that just made my heart so happy. I love her too. So I'm so happy you love her, Julia. Thank you. So basically the number one thing that is changing, I think, is that people are wise to your marketing game. And what they are really, really craving is personal outreach, personalization, and no longer being just a number or just a sale. I'll talk about really specific ways that we've been using that with my clients that has been working super well. But I feel like so often now in this space, people are used to just feeling like just a number or just a sale, right? So like you buy a course and then someone's talking about how much they made off that course launch or whatever. And you really get into this place where it just feels like you're like another number instead of like a person that like really wants to learn or really wants to grow or really wants a specific result. And I think that's been happening for a while in this industry because we've gotten so focused on like the launch numbers and the outcomes and all of that. And it's fine. A lot of the strategy I'm about to tell you is giving my clients really, really big launch numbers. But the truth is, we don't want to feel like that, right? Like, I have no problem if you have a great launch or make money, but I don't want to be just a number, right? And I think people are really wary of that in a lot of ways. Because at the end of the day, like what has happened a lot in this space, that a lot of people are good at making the money in terms of selling and not great at earning it. So many people have had that experience of like paying a lot of money, hearing that someone had this like really epic launch or whatever, and then not feeling served really well on the other side of it. And so there's this weariness about like how people are selling, how they're making the money, right? Like big difference between being good at making it and being good at earning it. You know what I mean? Julia says, so relatable as a fellow New Yorker who's already into 6 figures and where to go from there and scale in an authentic and aligned way. Oh, Julia, I love that. That makes me so happy. Taylor says, could not agree more. Loving that shift actually makes authenticity matter even more, which I'm all about. Exactly, right? It makes authenticity matter. It makes the value you deliver matter. And I think what it makes matter a ton is personalization. So to be clear, you should have a really fucking epic product and you should be really great at the delivery of that, but that's not what today is about. But like that matters, right? Because again, that's what some of the problem has become with the online space is that people are just so weary of purchasing because they purchased a bunch of shit stuff, right? But what we're going to talk about today and what I'm seeing make a big difference is personalization and personal outreach and marketing. I think the pendulum swung so far the other way for a couple of years in this industry where it was like completely about automation. It was basically like, don't talk to someone unless they've read 13 emails, filled out 2 applications, booked a call 16 times, and like all of this stuff. I'm being dramatic, but I'm not, right? It was almost like this mentality of like, don't talk to anyone, definitely don't reach out, don't touch them, don't do anything. You know what I mean? And I think that it got taken so far, and it got to the point where like it literally is just numbers on the other side of the screen and not humans. And everybody's fucking sick of that. It's just true. Like every data marker in our industry is showing that people are fucking sick of that, right? And so then the question is, well, then what do I do? Because like, I still want to make really big numbers. I still want to make really big sales. How can I do that and still grow my business? Claire says, so important selling in integrity and delivering a high standard of service. Exactly. Like, I feel like I shouldn't have to say like that's the foundation, but it is, and it's true. Julia says, yes, I still mail and handwrite all my welcome notes, which seems to make a difference. 100%. Claire said that's how to build a sustainable business, for sure. Sustainability is built off of like serving people really well. That's kind of the whole game. But in terms of marketing on the front end, right, it really, really is about personalization right now. Like, I cannot stress that enough. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. So I've been doing this with many of my clients because they've been seeing this shift, right? And I just had a client have a 240K launch and 100K, no, fuck, at least 6 figures. I don't know the exact number. It's somewhere between 100 and 140, but like, I should have looked at that before I got on here. But regardless, came pre-launch because we did personal outreach, personal invitations, personal invites, and really focused on that strategy. 6 figures in sales came from completely personal outreach, hands down. So by the time she even launched, right, half, if not more, I think it was more than half of her program was sold out. I have another client that we did this with, and I believe we sold out a third of her program pre-launch, and then most of those people ended up coming off the fence in the initial launch. We actually had to close her launch because she filled so fast. We actually didn't get to finish out the launch because of this, right? Another client had her first 5-figure launch, and it was almost entirely personal outreach. Like, she barely even launched, really. She mostly just did personal outreach. And I think some people get so triggered when they hear this because they're like, like, that's so much work. But so is the old launch model of putting a ton of fucking people in front of you and then blasting them with emails 24/7 and, you know, getting out in front of them a ton and whatever. Like, it all takes work. Like, let's not pretend that it doesn't, right? Like, there is not going to be a point in your business where like you never have to show up for your people, right? But quite honestly, the personal outreach is a fuck ton easier. Like, for some of my clients, we sent voice memos. For some of them, we had them send videos. Like, for some of them, it was just an email or it was a DM. But like, reaching out to someone that you already know is in your audience and already know wants to buy from you and making that personal connection results in a sale 100 times faster than a lot of these old tactics, right? Taylor says, so good and so spot on. Thank you, Taylor. Claire says, unbelievably true, yes. Marie says, all of the automation has kept me in hiding for sure. I love that things are changing. Totally. Julia says, I'm still new to online marketing world, having built everything in person, and I'm constantly bombarded with DMs that are sort of fake personalization because they are not authentic as that. Is this sort of the standard? So Julia, that's a perfect question. Thank you for clarifying. Fuck no. So when I'm talking about my clients doing personal outreach, I'm talking about something very specific, and I want to be clear on what that is, which is like they have already cultivated a community. They already have people that they know are interested, that are showing up in their community, that they've made some kind of conversation or other connection with or whatever, right? So Julia, I imagine the bombardment that you're getting is from people that you've not really connected with or it doesn't make sense, right? Versus people where you've been showing up in their community, you've had a connection with them, it totally makes sense for them to reach out to you and just be like, hey girl, like I know you've been on a ton of my live streams and we've talked about how you were having challenges with sales. Like, are you thinking about joining my sales program? Tell me what's up. Total different things. Speaking of, I actually got a message recently, and this is like not to call anyone out or make fun, but it's just like a good point, where someone was basically like, you know, emailing me about like, did I want her weight loss coaching? And I was like, do you have something to tell me? Right? But it's like that. Like, I never talked to this person. I had never said to them, oh, I'm really looking to lose weight. So random, right? And fake, quite honestly, right? But when like, if I had shown up in her community and been like, man, I'm like really struggling to lose weight, and like, I'm showing up for it and whatever, and then she reached out to me and was like, hey, like, you're telling me you're struggling with this, you're showing up in the community, I have this thing, like, let's talk about it. I'm so amenable to that. Like, I'm here for that, right? Claire says it's so nice to connect, though. That's the beauty of business building relationships. Exactly. And I just think that like, there's just nothing more important for that. And quite honestly, it's what makes the sale so much easier. So it is really important to build that community of people on the front end. So I want to say that these clients that I'm talking about with like the 200K plus launch, the 100K launch, like first 5-figure launch, like they have put in the work to build a solid community from which to make those personal outreach and relationship build opportunities that aren't fucking weird. You know what I mean? Right? Julie says, correct. They friend me, they bombard the groups, and I've never interacted with them, so it feels off. Exactly. Like, you've never like done an outreach to them. It's always like them coming at you. So that's a totally different thing that we're talking about here. But when someone has specifically engaged with you or told you they had that challenge or really resonated with you or whatever, and you just make an ask to them or make an outreach to them, like, it is so wild how well that works, because they feel like someone they look up to is going, hey, I see something in you, like, how can I help you with this, right? Versus like, you're just a number in my community. I barely even notice you. Like, I'm too good for that shit. Like, I feel like the industry is so past that. Like, there was a point in time, I feel like, in our space where it was almost about like being too good for anything. Like, I'm too good to get on the phone with you ever. I'm too good to do anything but an automated email, like blah, 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 right? And like, that's just not attractive anymore, because we've seen what happens with that. Then they're also too fucking good to coach you. You know, or too fucking good to deliver really amazing value to you. And so people are getting hip to that and wise to that. Like, they know when they're in your funnel. They know when it's an automated email and you have no idea who they are. Like, they know. But when you cut through all that bullshit and you're like, I'm just me reaching out to you, like human to human, like, what's up? Like, I see you in my community, I see you interacting, like, how can I support you? Everything changes, because you come down off that like, I'm too good pedestal, and you're just someone that's going, hey, I would love to help you. Can I do that? And I think that's what we're all craving so much, right? I think we're so over the whole like be the perfect influencer thing, and are so into just like, who's a real human that can help me in the context of being a real human get to where I want to be, right? And so the fact that someone took a minute, like literally, this is how long it took some of my clients, like 1 minute to record a video and be like, hey babe, like, I see you in my community, I see you saying this, I loved talking to you about this, like, what's up, like, can we do this together or whatever. They're like, oh my God, yes, like, I want that. Like, the fact that you would take the time to literally personally make me a video, mind blowing, you know? And the conversion rate's so high because of it. Like, we're talking so high. Another thing I didn't mention, sorry, I don't mean to jump, but I just want to be like super clear. We also built a wait list for most of these clients, right? So we were like, hey, we have something coming. If you're interested, get on the wait list. So we also had a very clear pool of interest to do personal outreach to. That's important as well. It's not, let me think. I'm thinking of probably 4 or 5 clients I've executed that strategy with, and I think at least 3, if not 4 of them had wait lists too. So that's something to consider too. When I say like we've built a community, like we were clear that people were interested. So to Julia's point, or to my point about the weight loss coach, like it wasn't like unclear that someone wanted this or was interested by the time we were reaching out to them. So a wait list can be an important piece of this too. In terms of like strategically having the right warm leads to reach out to, right? But hey, Stephanie, welcome, welcome. Claire says, love this, Lisa, you speak so much truth. Thank you. I hate the automated business, or I hate that automated model. It's just not business to me. Right, and like, I think that it doesn't mean you can never use automation, but I think that like there's a different way to do it, right? So like, I love like a super amazing automated welcome sequence. Like, I'm so into that. Like, welcome to my list. Like, let me give you a ton of value. Let me have that as an automated thing that like beautifully welcomes you or whatever. But like, I hate the automation of like, let me try to make you think that I'm building this super like strong relationship with you when you know it's automated. Like, if you get on my list, it's automated, and I'm saying like, hey, respond to this. Hey, tell me this. Like, I'm trying for all these other ways to build relationships. Hey, get in my community and tell me this. Like, I want to talk to you. I'm not trying to not talk to you. And I think that like that, if I could like boil it down to one thing, it's that has changed in our industry. Like, it used to be like the cool thing to like try to not talk to your people almost, right? It was like, how many barriers can you put between you and them? You know? And now I think that like people are just over that. Like, let's just be serious. It was like nobody's getting results from that, because that is then indicative of how you will show up in courses and programs and in coaching, right? If you're willing to send me a personal video, that's also indicative of how you're going to show up in courses and programs and coaching. Like, it's that simple, right? What we have learned in this industry is the more we take that pullback, automated, like hands-off model, the more we end up in that experience with that person. You know, every one of us has had that experience in some way, shape, or form, probably. We've all like bought that course that disappointed us, or thought we were going to get a high level of support where we didn't, or whatever. And so people are wise to that and weary of that. And so you have to show them on the front end that that's not what they can expect on the back end, right? But what happens, I think, is that some people, how do I want to say this? Some people are actually really delivering a ton of value on the back end, but they're still trying to market in that like hands-off way on the front end. And I think they're doing themselves a disservice, because they have all this value, but they're not showing it on the front end, right? So it's like, again, like they're trying to take that like automate everything marketing approach, zero personalization, even if on the back end they're providing a ton of value, but your people can't see that, right? They're going to assume that the way you're showing up on the front end is the way you're going to show up on the back end. So again, like that personal video could change the game in terms of like how people are assuming your value looks on the back end. Does that make sense? Claire says totally a time and a place. Exactly. Julia says, if I get invited to another invite-only millionaires club by someone I've never met, and then it's sad to know some people are super exploited this way because they may not know any better. In fact, a few months ago, I didn't know any better without having had exposure to the online world. Totally. And I think that's a really good point, where like we have a responsibility to be discerning too. Like, getting an invite from someone whose wait list I'm on, who I've been in an online relationship with, who I've been following for a long time or whatever, is naturally going to feel really good. Getting an invite from someone who I've never even talked to, who just like randomly reaches out to me like out of the clear blue sky, like I have to find some discernment around that. But Julia, you're right. Like, some people don't have that discernment, especially at the beginning, and it's easy to fall into that trap. But again, we all get wise to that, right? And it stops working. And I think that's what's really important here, is the thing that continues to work. I will say this forever until I'm blue in the face. The thing that has always worked in business and will always work in business is relationships. Always, 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 and forever, right? Like, I think a lot of you know this, but my grandfather was a serial entrepreneur. Most of my mom's side of the family is. He built so many businesses, and like that's something that he taught me, like to my core, is that business is about relationships. And that's why he created so much success, because that was the mentality, and that's how he always treated it, in a totally different world, in totally different businesses, in totally different arenas, but it's applicable and it still means something. And so it's our responsibility to see that shift in the online space and to really be willing to go, this is something I have to pay attention to, because if I keep trying to almost like be unattainable instead of actually reaching out and creating that relationship, I'm totally missing the point, and I'm missing what people are craving. And what people are just so clearly craving now in this space is to feel like a human and like a person and like someone you want to get results instead of just a number or just a sale. Like, that's the whole thing, right? I think I shared this on another live stream, but it's relevant, so I'll share it again. I was like looking at what's happening in businesses outside of our industry because I'm like super interested in just like watching trends as a whole, right? One of the reasons I was so excited about starting my podcast is because I felt like some of the trend that I was seeing is like just how much people are obsessed with like following reality TV show characters. And I feel like podcasting didn't have anything that was just like a full reality view of something. And so my point is looking at other in other industries, what people are craving and interested in is really applicable. Though this is not about the podcast. What this is about is that in April, that's when my birthday is. For my birthday in April, I was personally called by 2 companies that I like buy from, but I'm certainly not like their biggest buyer. So it was like David Yurman and Spanx. So funny. Like I love me some Spanx, but it's not like I'm like keeping them in business, right? I love David Yurman, but I'm certainly not buying from there every week or something like that, right? And so it was just interesting, but personal calls from sales associates at both of them basically saying like, hey, we hope you have a happy birthday. Based on the last couple of things you bought from us, like we really think you'd like this, and we actually have like a discount code for you if you come in for your birthday. That was more Spanx. I don't think David Yurman offered me a discount code, but the sales associate that I had bought from there before basically was like, I know that you really like things like this, and so I picked out 2 things for you. Like if you want to come in and see them and are thinking about a birthday gift, let me know. You bet your ass I bought something from Spanx with that discount code, and I went in and saw what the sales associate was talking about at David Yurman, right? Because I felt so seen and so special and so like not a fucking number that I like was responsive to that because it was a brand I already had a relationship with, very important, a brand I had already, expressed interest in by buying from them, although it doesn't have to just be expressing interest through a sale. And because they took the time to, really make that outreach. And so not only was that really impactful in terms of like watching my own buying behavior and how that made me take action, but in terms of seeing that big businesses are deciding that that's worth dedicating time and dollars to. So they're dedicating employee time and dollars to that person calling me, and they're assuming, probably based on a metric shit ton of data that they're working with, that I will take action based on that. Number one, they were right. And number 2, I'm like willing to go with the data they have to back up that was a good idea, right? Stephanie says, yes, relationships, all about being real and authentic, really real and authentically interested in the person first. Exactly. Hey, Emma. Stephanie says she loves watching trends. Same. I think it's so useful. And I think like, listen, like I don't have the ability to source data from millions of people, but Spanx does, and so does David Yurman, right? So like, I'm going to take that as a cue that like our industry is continuing to pivot. What I do have the ability to do is test really strong theories with clients in their launches, and I can tell you that I've done this with 4 to 5 clients, and it's fucking killed it every time. Killed it. Like, again, we're talking like multiple 6-figure launches. We're talking first 100K launch, first 5-figure launch, like knocked it out of the park in terms of like things that are working right now. So like, I'm just here to tell you this is what's working. Again, you can take that as a positive or a negative, but the truth is it takes less time, in my opinion, to make a 2-minute video and just reach out to somebody that I already know is interested than it takes to write, 100 emails and then like hope it works. Like I'd much rather just be in conversation with my people and learning from them. And that's a secondary result of this, which is something I want to share too, is that we got so much fucking market research from doing that outreach. So I told you 2 of the clients that I'm talking about, we had maybe 3, I think 3 had almost sold out their half to almost sold out like their stuff, their spots before we even launched. But what was so helpful about that is that because of these personal conversations, we knew so much more when we were launching. Like we knew, well, most of my people's objection are this, or they're asking a lot of questions about this, or they're most freaked out about this. So by the time we launched, like our messaging was so fucking locked in that it was so much easier, right? And that's really important too. Like when you're talking with your people, the amount of information and data and just like experiential knowledge points that you get through that is fucking unbelievable, right? And I just like can't stress that enough, which is like, it was so worth it. Like if you're thinking, well, personal outreach seems like a lot of work, that's fine, but I'll tell you that it's worth it. Like being able to have a message that unlocked by the time we launch, I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. Knowing for the next launch, our perfect messaging, you couldn't ask for anything better, right? So one of my clients, it was interesting because we kind of had a theory going in of like what we wanted our kind of like key takeaways and key messaging to be. And then she did some of this personal outreach and we were like, we would have never fucking thought about that. And we did a pretty huge pivot in all of our messaging and marketing right before she launched, because it was like literally something that was like, interesting. Okay, we can talk about that. And that was so helpful. She had a successful launch because we pivoted, honestly. Like, you know, in launching, you're making your best guess, like based on prior knowledge. But when you can get real-time information from your people in that moment, you're going to have so much more success. And that's exactly what we did. And it played out so well. Like I look back at that and I'm like, that was so fucking good, because if we had launched without other messaging, like it probably would have done pretty well. Like I'm not saying we would have like, you know, not had success, but it was so much better and so much easier because we had this knowledge point that we had not known about before, right? So good. Okay, Claire says, are the videos totally casual, like a live walking kind of thing, or more formal? Claire, it just really depends on who the client is, meaning like if my client is someone that like does things really formally or whatever, I would say like the video would probably be in alignment with that. If my client is someone that likes to do the live walking and is really casual, like the video would be in alignment with that. Like it's most about being authentic. Like when I say we're using it as a strategy, like the strategy is personal outreach, but it comes with all that authenticity of like them really just being themselves and them actually liking these humans and actually wanting them in their program and them actually caring about their community and all that kind of stuff. And so my point is, there's no like right way to do it that I can say. Like, I really think the right way to do it is like one that just, again, feels like you're a human talking to another human. So however you would do that, like if I was going to do it, I'd probably just sit right at this desk like this in this same setting that I am always in and always talking to my clients and do it like that. Like, but that's what I do. That's what's most in alignment with me. So I think it just kind of depends in that sense, right? But totally just about like being you. So like the industry is just moving that way. People want it. People are craving it. It's showing up in results. It's showing up in data. And it's also showing up in results in the opposite way, I think, where like people that aren't adding personalization elements are having a much more difficult time having successful launches, quite honestly. Because we're not, like, I just think that the place that we are at as humans, like, I'm about to, like, go off for a second, but I'll promise I'll come back. But it's like, I feel like social media has actually created so much more disconnection for a lot of us in many ways. You know what I mean? Like, we feel more like numbers and likes and like all of these things matter. And I think it's created like this feeling of just aloneness for a lot of people and separation and whatever. I mean, I think there are so many beautiful things to social media. I'm not knocking it. Like I'm obsessed, right? But I think it just has created this like inherent disconnect in a different way. And so what we're craving is that personalization, that connection, those human to human interactions, those human moments where it's not like the influencer on the pedestal, but like the one-on-one. It's like why Insta stories is so fucking like the thing right now, because it feels like that connection. I can just DM like my favorite influencer or whatever, and they might respond. And like that connection point is so important. And if you can apply that to launching, again, watch what works. Like Insta stories are working because of that DM capacity, right? And because of that real-time connection. And if you can apply that to your launches, create the DM capacity in whatever sense, like video, voice message, DM, whatever, and the real-time connection, you're going to see huge results from it. So sometimes what happens is that we aren't paying attention to like how the industry is shifting. And this is the number one thing I've seen that's changing. Again, it's like less pedestal, more real-time connection, more personalization, right? I think we're all over that pedestal thing where it's like this influencer that like I couldn't possibly reach out to, or like this coach that probably needs me to fill out 17 applications before she'll ever even consider having a 10-minute conversation with me or whatever. Like those days are gone in my opinion, and or are slowly dying for the people that are still doing them. And that might change again. Like I'm not trying to say this is the right way. I'm just trying to say this is what I see. Like it might swing back. I don't fucking know. But I can tell you what's working right now. And that's what it is. And so I hope that is super helpful. I hope it gives you permission to apply this to yourself. Again, I think there's some nuance to it, like we were talking about with Julia, in terms of like, don't just go fucking message everyone. Like cultivate a community, cultivate interest, figure out who your warm leads are, and make it like an actual real, authentic connection and conversation. But if you do that, like I promise you, you're gonna come back to me and be like, holy shit, this was crazy. How did this work so well? And so many of my clients have said that after we've tried this. They've been like, how did that work so well? Because that was pretty fucking easy. And it's like, yeah, because it's actually easy to be a human connecting with other humans. Like it's way harder to be like, how do I like stop the connection and just like write a bunch of emails? Like honestly, I think that's harder, at least for most of us who want to be service-based and who want to talk to our people and whatever. And I'm not knocking emails. Again, I have plenty of automated emails. Like it's not a thing. It's just that they don't work in a silo, right? My automated emails work because I'm constantly looking for connection in every one of those, and because I'm driving them to other connection points. And like, it's not like we didn't do sales emails for any of these clients or actually do launch emails. They just worked really well because we'd already started the conversation. We'd already made a bunch of sales. We'd already opened the door in so many ways, right? So they're still a useful tool. Like this isn't to knock it. It's just to say they're not the only tool anymore, because I think people just quite frankly don't trust it anymore. Again, like I think I've said this like 2 or 3 times already, but I'll say it one more time. Like people are starting to get wise to like how you are on the front end is how you will be on the back end. So if you're really, really unavailable on the front end, you're probably going to be really, really unavailable on the back end. And that's just not what people want anymore. Like nobody wants to spend their money and like never get supported, or you know, feel like they're hearing you talk about how awesome your launch was while they're experiencing your super shitty course. Like nobody wants that anymore, and they're hip to it now, right? Like I think people didn't used to be as aware of that, and I think there's just such an awareness about that in the online space now, so it's changed the game. So that's it. You got to personalize it. Like you have to make that personal relationship, personal connection, make that person feel like they are a person and not a number, and you're going to see your conversion rates skyrocket. Obviously do that with integrity. This isn't like a fake it till you make it thing, but like fundamentally care about that person, treat them as such, and you will see your business blow the fuck up, honestly. And it'll be with people that you actually like and actually want to work with, because they're people that you created that mutual connection with, right? Julia says, makes so much sense and totally agree. Now, what about everyone emailing me amidst my launch requesting different coaching call times, and I'm the one personally responding and trying to make it work? It seems to be working on a personal level, but welcome any thoughts. Let me try to think about what you mean by that. Everyone emailing me amidst my launch requesting different coaching call times. I'm not totally sure what you mean by that, Julia, like, or if there are people that have already bought from you, or if they're, you know, like deciding if they're going to buy based on the coaching call times or whatever. I would say this, like, it doesn't mean you have to personally respond to every like nuanced thing. Like if someone emails me and like doesn't know how to get access to something, or wants to know about like, you know, whatever, when's the next call time or something like that, like I'm happy for my assistant to answer some of that. It's not like it has to be so hands-on that you're never not the one answering, right? But do they feel cared for, and do they feel actually treated like a person and not a number? Like I know if my COO responds, or my VA or whatever, they're going to give them a very high level of personal support and make them feel Like they are a human being that our company cares about tremendously and not just a number. And so I think that's kind of it. Like, are you instilling that in your team and stuff too? Because that's just as valuable, right? Like, I don't need to be the one that always deals with it, as long as that mentality of like personalization and support is present throughout my company, right? So that's what I would say. Like, I think that it doesn't mean it always has to be you, right? But are they getting treated with that same mentality? And are they still experiencing that feeling through working with you of being personalized, having it really be a human on the other end, all that kind of stuff. So I hope that's helpful for everyone. I thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really think this is important. So please take it to heart. Like, this isn't like one of those scare tactics like, oh my God, the space is changing. Like, I'm just trying to share with you because I work with a lot of clients and I get the data from behind the scenes. I just want you to know what's working right now. And I think that's really important. Don't freak out. This isn't like a time to like change everything you're doing. These are important add-ons that will make a really big difference. So I love you guys. Hope you have a beautiful week. Thank you guys so much for all your feedback on Literally Season 2. I want to say that as well. If you have more feedback for me, if you want to tell me like how you're feeling about the podcast, what you're thinking, what you're loving, what you want to hear more of, feel free to let me know that too. But thank you guys for all your support on that, and I will talk to y'all next week. All right, bye.